Okay, this is black cherry. Many times you may have heard of wild cherry growing up, and most times that's referring to this tree, black cherry. Now first, it's not a maple ash or a dogwood, so it ought to be alternate, right? And you can see leaves alternating down the stem. No two leaves come out at the same point. So when you come up to this unknown tree again, first look, how are my leaves on there? Okay, they're alternate. So I've eliminated a bunch of different trees, and I'm down to a shorter list now. Now we've had compound and simple leaves. This is a great example of a simple leaf, one blade, leaf petiole, or the leaf stem you may have called it, attached directly to the twig. So that's a simple leaf, and a different shape than we've had from any of the others. This is a very lance-shaped, like a spear, and it has very fine teeth. So that's called finely serrated. So big, long, lance-shaped. When I was a kid growing up, I always thought these were peach trees. And they were everywhere. I thought, well, but they're not, obviously, but they have a leaf that looks a bit like a peach tree. Now the twig is probably even going to be hard for you to see. This is an example of a very slender twig. In comparison to that ash we just were looking at, it's probably one of the most slender twigs you're going to see in the entire class. Very skinny, extremely tiny little buds. They're there, you can see them alternating, but very small. And a fun thing about this one is if you chew it, and you're all going to want to do that, it's very bitter. It's known as a bitter almond taste, and that actually is a cyanide and cyanide derivative. And it's not enough to hurt you. I mean, if you ate enough twigs to try to hurt yourself, you'd simply die from eating twigs before the cyanide would kill you. You could go just eat any twig, and you'd be impacted with twigs before there'd be enough. But there is situations where livestock, where they eat wilted leaves, where the water's gone and that cyanide concentrates, they eat it, they can be sick or killed. And most farmers through the eastern U.S. and southwest Virginia, certainly, that's well known to them to keep black cherry or wild cherry trees off their fence lines where no cattle will get in after. Like cherries, it should have a cherry, right? Well, it does. It's not the biggest thing in the world. It's like buckshot sized. Okay, about a quarter of an inch in diameter. It occurs on a long stem, very different. You're used to seeing sweet cherries where there's 2, maybe 3 hanging. You buy them at the grocery store. This has a long chain. A lot of these have fallen off or just didn't pollinate. And they're green right now because they're not ripe. They will turn nearly black, navy blue. This one's ripening a little bit. And they're ripe, mid-September, late September, which is very different than the other cherry that you might see in the woods, sweet cherry. Those ripen in mid-spring to late spring. So these, if you see cherries on the tree, this time of year, you can be certain that you have a black cherry. And they're edible if you get them when they're ripe. They do have a little more bitterness, but I find them pretty tasty, and they can be used to make things out of. It's not got a lot of flesh on it. It's mostly a pit, but there's enough on there that you can flavor ice cream, black cherry ice cream, and jams and jellies and things like that if you're able to collect a lot of them. Now, what it is well known for, black cherry, in some parts of the country, is its lumber. This is a great tree that is very valuable for furniture. The wood has a very unique orange-brown color. Like if in wood shop, maybe you remember seeing orange wood. That was probably black cherry, and it's actually very expensive to buy that lumber and make things out of it. And a lot of times it's so valuable, when they have a big tree, they'll peel it and make veneer out of it, like unrolling toilet paper, thin strips, and they'll just put that on top of a less valuable wood. And then you have black cherry furniture, but it's not solid. They can make more out of it that way. Here's not a great shaped black cherry, but it's showing you what the bark does. Now, like all our trees, we can't really see it up there. When it is young, it's smooth, and it has a gazillion little horizontal tick marks all over the bark. They're called lenticels, little pores, all over the bark. But in a short period of time, it splits up, and like to describe it as having burnt cornflake, scaly, flaky pattern to the bark. Well known for that when it gets large. Very, very dark gray bark with cornflake-sized scaly patches to it. You can be assured that it's a black cherry. So it's kind of neat. Those first 4 trees, their barks are all very, very different. Kind of neat. Okay?